Okay, we'd like to call to order the Town of Niskayuna Planning and Zoning Commission, March 23rd, 2026 meeting. Ms. Bergami, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Here.
Ms. Strain,
Here.
Mr. Khan,
Here.
Mr. Millspaw,
Here.
Ms. Gomes,
Here.
Ms. Gold,
Present.
Mr. Bill and Calhoun,
Here.
Mr. Drescher,
Here.
Chairman Darpino.
Here. Next up is the approval of the March 9th, 2026 meeting minutes. May I get a motion?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Khan. I will second. Any comments or corrections? Okay, I had none. So all in favor of the March 9th, 2026 meeting minutes, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the March 9th, 2026 meeting minutes are approved. Next up is public hearings. We do not have any scheduled public hearings for tonight, so we will move to privilege of the floor. Privilege of the floor is open to any resident of Niskayuna wishing to speak about any zoning or planning matter. Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Doug McFadden. I live at 1388 Row Road in Niskayuna. I had basically just one question. I understand that you're going to have in April, you're going to have a final approval, or at least an approval of this project. And so I understand that you have required a full SWPPP. And I guess my question is this, is once this has done, does the DEC have the final sign off? In other words, do they see this study and do they have the final say on this thing is go or no go with respect to the SWPP? That's my question. That's really all I've got.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else present for privilege of the floor? Okay, we'll move over to planning department. Was there any correspondence received?
No, I did not receive any.
Okay, and do we have anyone online that may want to be or wish to speak at privilege of the floor? Okay, it doesn't look like that. Okay, so last call for privilege of the floor. Seeing as there is none, we will close that and move on to unfinished business. There is no unfinished business, so we will move on to new business. First up is Resolution 2026-20. This is a resolution to make a seeker determination and a call for a public hearing for a two-lot minor subdivision at 3515 Rosendale Road. Project lead is Ms. Gold. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission hereby determines that this project will not have a significant effect on the environment and hereby directs the town planner to file a negative seeker declaration as noted above with the additional following comments from the CAC findings. Number one, the developer shall explore low mow and pesticide-free options for lawn maintenance, and dark sky-friendly lighting is encouraged. Planting native species whenever possible is also encouraged. And be it hereby further resolved that this planning board does hereby call for a public hearing to be held on Monday, April 13th, 2026 at 7:00 p.m. in the Niskayuna Town Hall, 1 Niskayuna Circle, to consider the application for Assad Mufti for approval of plat plan for a two-lot minor subdivision as shown on the aforementioned drawings. I may get a motion?
So move.
Okay, moved by Ms. Gold
Second.
and second by Ms. Strang. Do we have a representative from the applicant here or online?
Yes, the representative is online. He might just need a second to unmute himself.
Okay.
There he is.
Yes, I don't know if Assad is here. My name is Kevin Flatley. I'm the surveyor on the project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Flatley. You had a chance to hear the couple conditions on there. Is everything, were you okay with all of those?
I am okay with everything.
Okay, great.
Sounds good to me.
All right. We'll open it up to discussion for the board. Pretty straightforward. We've seen the project a few times. Okay. If there's no further discussion, Ms. Bergami, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Ms. Strain,
Aye.
Mr. Khan,
Aye.
Mr. Millspaw,
Aye.
Ms. Gomes,
Aye.
Ms. Gold,
Aye.
Chairman Darpino.
Aye. Resolution passes. Okay, next up is Resolution 2026-21. This is a resolution for site plan approval for a security center at GE Vernova at 2690 Balltown Road. Project lead is Ms. Gold. Now therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission hereby determines that this project will not have a significant effect on the environment and hereby directs the town planner to file a negative seeker declaration as noted above with the additional following comments from the CAC findings. 1, the developer shall explore solar and EV-ready options for the building as well as explore low-mow and pesticide-free options for lawn maintenance. Dark sky-friendly lighting is encouraged. 2, the developer shall use native species whenever possible in their plantings and plans. And be it hereby further resolved that this Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds that the site plan referenced above meets the requirements of the zoning code and therefore hereby approves this application with the following conditions. 1, the final landscaping plans for the site plan shall be reviewed and approved by the Tree Council. 2, any questions or concerns raised by the town designated engineer will be addressed by the applicant in a formal letter to the town. 3, prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall participate in a pre-construction meeting with the town of Niskuna. Number 4, prior to site disturbance, the site plan map shall be modified to reflect agreed upon decisions of the pre-construction meeting, if any, and distributed as required to the town and to all involved contractors. Final site plan shall be submitted to the town labeled for construction. 5, in accordance with Chapter 180 of the Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance of the town of Niskuna, the applicant shall put in place soil erosion and sediment control measures sufficient to stabilize disturbed areas. These measures shall be satisfactory to the superintendent of water, sewer, and engineering, and shall remain in place until such time as natural vegetation has been successfully established. Number 6, wetland boundaries shall be recorded and shown on any plot plan of a building lot containing wetlands. Wetlands may not be disturbed, drained, or physically altered in any way without first contacting the Army Corps of Engineers. Number 7, should the garage floor elevation, GFE, deviate by more than 6 inches from the elevations approved for construction by the Planning Board and Zoning Commission or the Building Department, then revised grading plans shall be submitted immediately to the town engineer's office for their review and approval. May I get a motion?
I so move.
Moved by Ms. Gold. I will second it. Do we have a representative here for the applicant?
Good evening, Matt Savoy, GE Vernova Facilities Operations Leader.
How are you tonight?
Doing okay. A little slow, but that's all right.
That's fine. Okay, since the resolution was drafted, there has been some correspondence with the planning department, so we're going to read through a few edits. A couple things are clarification items. These were discussed between the applicant and the planning department. Project lead's aware of them. So I'm going to go through these one at a time.
Sure.
And then what we'll do is we'll talk about each one and then act on a vote for an amendment to these as we go through each of the discussion items.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first one is right after the resolution in the first paragraph, the date is actually incorrect. It's got the 26th day of March, and that should be the 23rd. Okay. So that'll be number 1. So in the body of the resolution, before the whereases, on page 1, right after all the names are listed, the sentence is, one of the purposes of the meeting was to take action on site plan approval. They would like to have, after the word take action on, insert seeker and site plan approval, which is what this is capturing. So that would be number 2. On page 3, the second whereas, the planning board referred this project to the town superintendent of water, sewer, and engineering, the fire district chief, and the chief of police. There were no objections to the amendment, and the word amendment should be changed to project. In the next whereas, the site plan drawings, set, and SWIP will be reviewed and approved by the town designated engineer, TDE. Right after the word SWIP, where it says will be, should be have been approved, because they have been approved. That's number 4. And then on page 4, The last condition, number 7, where it reads, should the garage floor elevation, GFE, technically should be finished floor elevation, FFE, because there is no garage. This is a single story building. So that would be, I think that would capture the 5 items that we wanted to change on this. There was a question if the Architectural Review Board had reviewed this. They have, so that was captured in some of the notes that the planning department has. So Mr. Foy, does that capture all the items I believe that you were?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. So I think we'll go through each one of these and we'll just do a quick Strawman poll on these. So the first one is the date. Obviously, that's just a numerical change. So all in favor of that, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Number 2 would be to insert the word seeker and in the beginning after the purposes of the meeting was to take action. So all in favor of inserting the word seeker and after the word on, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 3, in the second whereas, this would be to change the word amendment to the word project. So all in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The next whereas, right after the word SWIP, will be, shall be changed to have been.
Can just quick on that,
Sure.
just from the agenda, the packet on Friday to now, did it get approved? Because it looked like the packet, there was still a response to comments. Just want to clarify that it truly was approved.
It actually was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
All right. So all in favor of changing the words will be to have been, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then the last one, which is the 5th amendment, would be to change the word finished and the abbreviation GFE to, I'm sorry. The 5th one would be to change the word garage and the abbreviation GFE to the word finished and FFE. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we have an amended resolution that we're still discussing. I'll open it up to project lead and anyone else on the board wishing to go through any other comments.
We've been looking at this for several meetings now. It's larger than we had originally seen, but I think it's also a much better plan because it allows for circulation at the security point instead of having people go all the way up and having to turn around. And there's some amenities, which I think makes it even nicer. And I don't know if Mr. Savoy would like to comment.
We're very excited about this project. Obviously, it's our first kind of forward-facing image to the community. So very excited and hoping to see the project come to fruition.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, Ms. Bergami, could you please call the roll on the amended resolution?
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Ms. Drain?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Mr. Millspaw?
Aye.
Ms. Gomes?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
Chairman Darpino?
Aye, resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We very much appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing the project.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on new business is Resolution 2026-22, a resolution to make seeker determination and call for a public hearing for a 2-lot subdivision for a site plan application requiring a special use permit for a 6,000 square foot building for a child care center at 46 Commerce Park Drive. Ms. Gold is the project lead.
And I move the resolution.
Okay. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission hereby determines that the subdivision will not have a significant effect on the environment and hereby directs the town planner to file a negative seeker declaration. And be it hereby further resolved that this planning board does hereby call for a public hearing to be held on Monday, April 13th, 2026 at 7:00 p.m. in the Niskayuna Town Hall, 1 Niskayuna Circle, to consider the application of Chris Bragan for approval of the plat plan for a 2-lot minor subdivision as shown on the aforementioned drawings. Ms. Gold, may I get a motion?
I so move.
Okay, moved by Ms. Gold.
Second.
Mr. Laflamme will give you the second. Okay, representative from the applicant here.
Good evening, Luigi Palesci with ABD Engineers and Surveyors.
Okay, how are you this evening?
Good, thank you.
All right, good. Pretty straightforward resolution.
Yep.
I know you guys have still been working on some updates and things like that.
That's correct.
Think you had an ARB meeting
Yep.
as well? Good.
Yep.
Or that went relatively well?
They liked it. Yep.
Okay, good. So progress is being made on the project. Any other concerns with the resolution as stated?
Nope.
Okay,
Pretty straightforward.
okay. Open up to discussion. I think that's moving in the right direction.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. There's no further comments. Ms. Bergami, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Ms. Strain?
Aye.
Mr. Khan?
Aye.
Mr. Millsbaugh?
Aye.
Ms. Gomes?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
Chairman Darpino?
Aye, resolution passes. So public meeting for the 13th. Okay, that's it for new business. So we'll move on to discussion items. First up is 6 St. Gerard, an application for preliminary plat plan approval of a major subdivision. Ms. Gold is the project lead. And we have Mr. Fleshy back up.
And the main issue at this point is the drainage again.
Yeah, so we've been working with Doug Cole, the town designated engineer. We've actually improved the stormwater design. I think the last time we were here, there was mention about the 5-acre threshold. We were looking at some alternatives to keep it under 5 acres. But after discussing with the applicant, Mr. Lisi agreed that, let's do a stormwater practice that because we're so close to the 5 acres, we decided to move forward with a bioretention system. And what that does is it takes care of, the 5-lot subdivision here meeting the New York State DEC requirements. Of course, when you go and build this practice, it's going to put you over the 5 acres. So, not only because of installing that practice, we're now over 5 acres and it's all accounted for in our full SWIP, as we call it. That's all been calculated and submitted to the town engineer. As of today, actually, town engineer has reviewed our latest full SWIP, provided comments. They were minor technical at this point. We've actually responded to them and you should see them at the next meeting. We feel that we're in pretty good shape here for approval, hopefully at the next meeting. And, on this plan here, you see the wide driveway. It's just to the northwest of that. The water naturally drains in that direction as it did back from the previous subdivisions that were approved for 60 plus lots. All that drains to a low point culvert in the back and under the street there. So with your TDE review, again, we just responded today. So, if there's any questions after you guys have a chance to look at our responses, we can certainly discuss it, but that's the latest update.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I can just chime in a little bit. There's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of great team effort between Luigi and Doug Cole. And the review is in great shape. I mean, we fully expect Doug to sign off on it. It's just one of the challenges of the 2-week turnaround between the prior meeting and this meeting. There was a tremendous amount of work being done all through last week. And we just got to the end where we couldn't have a resolution for this week because it just couldn't all be checked out the way we wanted to. So we appreciate Mr. Lisi and them. We basically pushed the resolution out to the April 13th meeting, which will just make sure that Doug can dot all the I's, cross all the T's. All the paperwork will be properly reviewed for the resolution. So again, we really appreciate the teamwork on that. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we can at least have a tentative resolution next meeting?
Okay. Yeah, as long as our TDE letters and looks like you're down to like the last 3 or 4 items, they get
Correct.
addressed, then we'll have it on for the April 13th.
Okay.
for tentative resolution. Great.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the TDE letter or not, Luigi, but we do still need a final subdivision map that shows the Y on a big drawing.
Okay, I thought we provided that at the last round, but we can certainly get you another copy.
Okay, I'll double check. Maybe we have it. I didn't see it when I was making the packets, but like Clark said, it was coming back and forth so much. I only saw stormwater stuff, but we are still looking. So I'll check, but if we don't have it, then send me that final drawing too.
Okay. I know it's done, so it's just a matter of getting it to you if you don't have it.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Laura. All right. Any other questions?
Are we squared away on the connection over the adjacent parcel to Antonia or Angelina? Does that need an easement or how is that being?
From where to where?
Like where the Y driveway
Yeah.
gets to
Yeah, that-
Angelina, it crosses over another parcel? I know there was discussion previously about how that was going to be addressed. I just wanted to,
That doesn't cross over another parcel. The division line is further south from there.
so the paper street is part of the parcel?
Yes. Yeah, there's frontage on Angelina right there where the driveway
I
meets.
don't think that's true, Luigi. Right? I think Lou owns it, but it's a separate parcel, unless he plans to combine it. Right?
You own that paper street to Angelina? That's what I thought, yeah.
Right, he owns it, but is it the same parcel or a separate parcel? Just separate parcel. So do we just need to make sure that it includes a driveway easement or something across it?
That's fine.
Well, I'm asking the question.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
it
Lou,
should.
does it have frontage? So does it have the frontage that's required?
It does, yes.
Oops,
Yeah,
the frontage-
there's another piece over on that corner. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this frontage requirement is satisfied a different way, and then you're going to do an easement just to access that driveway.
Right, exactly.
That will work.
Oh, that's right. He has that there.
You could probably combine the properties together too. Either combine them or make an easement.
Either one of those things would be legally binding, so that's fine. I'll work that out with Lou and Luigi.
Okay. Good.
All right,
like we'll
great.
see you on the
Thank
13th.
you. See you in a couple weeks.
Okay, next up under discussion items is 3333 Council Road. This is Hannaford, a site plan application for signage replacement. This is a new applicant. Do we have a representative from the applicant? Oh, we do. Mr. Wheeler. So I'm going to recuse myself here and turn this over to Mr. Khan to chair this one.
All right. Thank you, Chairman DiArpino. And Mr. Wheeler, if you can just give a brief overview of what the proposed changes in the signing packages are. I think, so we've seen Hannaford come with various things in the plaza itself, to go aspect. And I think this is probably the final step, right? Your final signage, is that correct? You can
Yep.
take over from here and, explain where we're at.
So this is basically just a remodel.
Okay.
We're gonna take down all the signs, they're gonna redo the facade, and we're gonna put up new signs, but they're the same as the existing signs. So there's no change here. I think the ones on the front might be a couple square feet smaller, but other than that, we're putting up pretty much the same thing.
Right. So
So
according to
just
the package that was given to the planning board, it seems that there are 5 signs were in question, including the Citizens Bank one. So 3
Yep.
of those signs are not going to be changing from their existing, although it seems at some point there was a waiver for especially the main Hannaford sign at 128.67 square feet, right, where the 50 square foot was the limit. So there seems to be for the welcome sign and the side sign for that says Hannaford, I'm going to call it, the numbers are small. I'm going to call it a small increase. In the case of the welcome sign, there's a 0.42 square foot increase. And in the case of the Hannaford side sign, there's a 1.72 square foot increase. So look, I think this is straightforward in terms of the business is remodeled, the business has been there, it's a plaza. The visual appearance of these signs, right, are not overwhelming in any regard on that plaza. And the planning board does have the ability to waive, which obviously they've done it sometime in the past, signage, 50 square foot sign requirements for Hannaford. So I'll open it up to the board to comment on, any concerns, thoughts relative to what Hannaford's proposing here, especially with these two additional size signs, larger signs.
I think some of the new signage is a little brighter than what's there currently, but not inappropriately so, because it is in a shopping plaza.
Right. But I actually personally like the brighter, more contrasted sign. So, and it was still it wasn't violating anything within our code.
I wanted to confirm that the lighting's going to stay the same. It's internally lit now, correct?
Yep, same lighting. Yeah, they're all just internally lit channel letters, LED lit. They're just gonna be new, clean signs.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'd recommend that, I guess in the next meeting, we have a resolution concerning the waiving of the preservation, however you want to accurately do it, right? The preservation of the existing to propose and the signs that don't change, and the waiver for, the total of the 0.42 and 1.72 for the welcome and for the side sign.
And I think with things like this, where the board is giving a waiver, we always have you guys repeat that.
Right.
Even though it's so similar to the previous waiver, but
Yep.
we have you reissue that rather than treat it like a variance where it's.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I think, that was probably in the back of my mind why I said I think we should list them all out for both the existing non-changing sizes and the changing sizes.
And just to clarify, because they were here before for other signs, right? Like the Hannaford to go.
The Hannaford to go
and
was,
some
yeah.
other things. So this is the big roof sign, the side sign, the front sign, and a welcome sign.
Right.
There's 4 things we're looking at here.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they were here for changing of some of the facade colors and the roof color a little bit. And I think that did pick the Hannaford to go, I think was
Yeah.
undocumented at that point. So we
Right.
had them add that on when they were really changing
Yeah.
the facade colors. But this is for the actual signage.
Yeah. So the one thing I just want to verify, because the count wasn't working out, the monument sign, we have it on the last page of the planning packet, but it's actually not listed in the table, clerk, or is it?
Yeah, we didn't list that because that's code compliant. So
Okay.
we normally only list the signs that may
Perfect.
need a waiver.
Okay, so maybe there's a whereas that they'll say the monument sign is is compliant. Any other concerns? I mean, overall, it's good to see the plaza spruced up. Okay. Well, with that, we'll call for the resolution next meeting. I'll turn things back over to Chairman DiArpino. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khan. All right, so next up on discussion items is 2757 Aqueduct Road, Niskuna Harbor. This is a sketch plan application for a planned unit development. Project leads are Ms. Strang and Mr. Laflamme.
So, just to highlight, we've been reviewing this preliminary sketch plan for the PUD. And a couple of things I just wanted to highlight, as Nancy and I have sat through a lot of workshops with Clark, who's organized them, and Chuck and Brett, is that, this board's challenged with reviewing a preliminary sketch plan that will be recommended, or will make a recommendation to the town board, who will then come back with a yea or nay, and then we'll have a final plan. And what's been a little bit challenging for this process is that, the applicant is putting a lot of effort forth on our feedback and our comments and making changes, but at the end of the day, they don't have town board approval. But the CAC needs to make a recommendation that is final prior to us making a final review of a final sketch plan. So with that said, that's kind of the backdrop. There was a typo I missed. We have a meeting tomorrow scheduled with the applicant and the leads and the CAC.
Wednesday.
Wednesday's not tomorrow. The
Wednesday before.
25th. Yep. And that's going to really kind of explain some of the specific concerns the CAC has. And I know you've gotten little bits, but maybe not a direct response from the CAC as to what those concerns are. The general spirit of the conversation was none of them are going to end anything. It's more they can be worked, engineered. They repeat a lot of the concerns we had with the access road in and out. It's a very short distance from Aqueduct to the buildings. Is it enough to satisfy the traffic flow that we expect based on the traffic study? Some recommendations of maybe having the firm that did the traffic study speak to this board when we get to that point, maybe sooner. So that's just a high overview. And maybe you gentlemen can share with us anything else we need to.
Yeah, you're great. Excellent synopsis, Chris. It's, we've been working obviously collaborative with this board. We are interested in meeting with the CAC on Wednesday. Either I think the location is still up in the air. We do have the first round of engineering comments. And, I think the big thing was the concern on that entrance, which I have reworked a little bit already. You don't have the design yet. I wanted to make sure that Lansing Engineering, who's doing the traffic study, was good with the new design from a geometric standpoint. And they actually really liked what we've reworked for the design to provide for a little better flow into the site. Very similar to what the TDE had recommended, actually almost identical to what the TDE had recommended. From a what's changed standpoint, not a lot has changed over the last few weeks. It's really more processes and, just working through the process so that we can get to that tentative zoning. As you stated, it's difficult to look at my client and say, we need to do all the engineering on this, and he doesn't have zoning. And if zoning, I have had projects, similar projects with PUDs, where they've gotten shot down at the zoning level, where we've gone pretty deep into the engineering. So I do appreciate, at least getting to this tentative zoning with the town board and moving forward in that direction. I think probably the most important thing here this evening, not to put the pressure on you, Alana, would be Alana from Lansing Engineering to be able to come up and speak specifically to the traffic study. I know Ms. Gold had questions, concerns. She's here to hopefully alleviate some of those questions and concerns. She's the one who's performed the traffic study. And hopefully we can, we can maybe put some of those issues to rest as well.
Excellent.
Thanks, Brett. Again, Alana Moran with Lansing Engineering. As was stated, we did complete the traffic evaluation for this proposed project. I'm just going to give kind of a brief summary of the work that was completed, and then if you have any questions, feel free to ask away.
Before you start, were there any specific things that we definitely wanted Alana to kind of hit on as a result of our workshops? And what comes to mind is just
Sure.
We've got an 81 car count for the busy hour. We've got some adjacent traffic flow intersections, things of that nature, like the circle that was recently done. Any insight on the impact of those things during those hours would be helpful. The road redesign, the TDE recommended that Brett was referring to. I don't know if you have any insight, on the stackability or the logistics of a car turning right or turning left and having room to queue, right? That kind of stuff would be, I think, helpful to be covered. Those are some of our main concerns.
Why don't I jump right into those things then?
Okay.
So when we look at a project of this size, which is not a huge traffic generator, usually when we talk about larger traffic generators, they're going to say they'll have more than 100, definitely, but we might also be looking into a couple hundred trips per a peak hour. That would be really what we would consider a higher trip generator. So with this one, what we really are focusing on is the access at the site. And from that perspective, it's the site distances. How safe is it for vehicles to enter and exit this site? We want to make sure that everybody coming in and out can see appropriately. So that's one of the first things that we really want to make sure we're looking at, so that if we need to relocate it, if we need to put up signs, if we need to trim vegetation, we're taking care of that for a nice, safe site access. And then the second part we look at here is, what is the general increase in traffic volumes on that adjacent aqueduct road? Kind of in context of how many additional trips per hour, per minute might be on the roadway, just to put it all into some context to how it contributes to that roadway network. So starting with sight distance, we went out and measured the travel speeds and sight distances, and the sight distances do meet the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials guidelines for the operating speed. So we're all good on sight distances. Everything looks good there. The next thing we looked at, again, was the trip generation and how many vehicles are going to be on the roadway network associated with the site. So as you noted, 81 trips during the PM peak hour, 68 during the AM peak hour. And what we're estimating based upon the counts of the ATR that was out there is about 45% to and from the roundabout area, and then 55% to and from the west. So with that said, I know that, like you said, there have been concerns about the roundabout and the operations and how many additional trips might be there. Basically, we're looking at one additional vehicle at the roundabout every 2 minutes or so. So it's really not a heavy impact to that roundabout operations. It's really not going to change things very much. It'll operate very similarly to how it does right now. So that was the circle. We talked about sight distance, trip generation, the
queuing.
length of the roadway coming into and out of. So with the number of trips that are expected to exit the site during both the morning and the afternoon peak hours, the site driveway is going to operate with about 15 to 20 seconds of average delay. So sometimes it's going to be a little longer, sometimes it's going to be a little bit shorter. But we're not looking at an instance where we're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 vehicles queuing exiting the site. At the most, you're probably going to have 2 to 3. On average, the analysis is actually showing us that it's going to be less than 1, because we're only showing one vehicle there every, say, one vehicle every 1.5 to 2 minutes. So there's plenty of time for vehicles to enter the roadway before they queue up. The other part with the TDE comment about changing that roadway alignment a little bit, and then Brett's modification to the plan, it gives you a nice 150 feet or so of roadway before you get to the initial, there's a parking lot that it gets to. And so there's a lot more space than there would have had with that very short throat. So
Is
this
that
is
about
definitely a benefit.
like 8 cars, something like
150 feet is 6 cars. We estimate about 25 feet per vehicle.
And we don't expect box trucks or semis. There's no commercial mixed use in there. It's really
You're going to
just-
have delivery trucks, but
Okay.
I wouldn't expect anything else. I mean, it's at my neighborhood and probably all of you right now, Amazon is there all the time, but it's really a box truck. It's not anything larger than that.
So Laura, could you bring up the the Weston and Sampson picture that has that red squiggly line that goes over the road? Yeah, right there. So this is the entrance we're talking about, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So would you say that you're more supportive of a configuration like this that has an ease thing as opposed to a more lineal?
Yes. And really it's because the bulk of your traffic coming in, you're going to have maybe 4, 8, 10 units that might come in and go to the right, but almost everybody else is going to be coming in and traveling further into the site. You want that to be your main road. And that's the way that the redesign really works. You can put a stop sign on that smaller stub in just to, further clarify that control. But the new sweep of the roadway really is a good design.
Okay. And then those townhomes have been reconfigured of some. Okay. All right.
Alana, can you tell me what the level of service is now and if the addition will change that?
So we're measuring the level of service on the site driveway approach. So there isn't anything right now, but with the site itself, we're looking at during the morning peak hour, a level of service B with about 15 seconds of delay, and during the PM peak hour, a level of service C with about 19 to 20 seconds of delay. So plenty of capacity on that roadway for the vehicles entering and exiting.
The numbers are big. It's like, isn't it, they're like, is it 800 cars that pass during the busy hour on Aqueduct? It's a
Yeah.
big, it seems like a big number.
It does, and I can absolutely understand that. But a typical 2-lane roadway collector like this can serve 1,000, 1,200 vehicles per direction for a single peak hour. So it does feel like it is a larger number. Yeah, roughly 10,200 vehicles per day. But again, like you said, during those peak hours, it's more like 800 to 900.
And then when you mentioned at the circle that it's going to be about one additional car per 2 minutes, and you call that a low number,
Yes.
what's a high number?
I would say a high number would be a new vehicle every 20 to 30 seconds. So multiple vehicles per minute.
Okay. Is there like a standard threshold for those low, high, medium, and the
When we
MTH?
look at, yes, there's different thresholds for when we actually do a detailed analysis at an offsite intersection. And it's when we add 100 or more vehicles on a single approach. So if this site had 100 vehicles heading toward the roundabout,
Mhm.
we would be doing the analysis of that roundabout.
Okay, but right now you're just at 55% of 80.
Yes.
About.
So there is a different methodology for analyzing traffic for a roundabout?
There is, yeah. So it's all still highway capacity manual methodologies. But when you're looking at a roundabout, it's gap based. So it's when is a driver going to see that there's enough space in the flow of traffic for them to go ahead and make that move. It has the similar kind of thresholds of it's 15 seconds is a level of service B, 30 seconds is a level of service C. Those types of things are similar, but it is more gap based.
And it does consider the speed that's
Yep.
allowed?
Yeah, that's part of the gap actually, is that the speed that we're entering or moving at is going to contribute to when that gap can be accepted.
Okay, that's helpful information. Thank you. And I will note, I haven't expressed any concern about the road going into the city of Schenectady because, well, the city line happens in the straightaway of Aqueduct, but then you quickly come to a stoplight.
Right.
So there is that control at that end, which is why I haven't worried so much about it. But I've experienced some difficulties with the roundabout. And frankly, most of the time it's the traffic coming from Aqueduct. And I'm saying the traffic coming from, I'm not saying it's the neighbors there because I don't think it is.
Right.
It is a major thoroughfare from the city. So this is helpful. I'm not as uneasy as I was.
Oh, good. I'm glad we can rest your fears a little bit.
No, this was helpful. This may be too detailed a question, but traffic heading east,
Yes.
do you know what percentage? So you said that's going to be 45% of
45.
the traffic. So it's going to be maybe,
It's roughly 30
30.
during the morning, and like whether you're coming from or going to, it's about 30 during the morning and 34 during the evening. And
Yeah.
again, whether you're coming from or going to.
divided by 60 minutes.
Yes.
So- and then of that, which is going north and which is going south? Is it the 50-50? Do you know that number?
I don't know that number, but it's probably a pretty safe guess that it's going to be.
Similar.
No, let's go 50-50 because you
Yeah.
want to come into town and go to the grocery store or whatever it may be, then you're going to go head up that roadway and come down this direction. So
And out of curiosity, if it were 100 in either direction, if this was more than twice the size of what it is, which is
Right.
not going to be, at what point does it merit a stop light? On a
where the
roadway?
roundabout is?
No, where the entrance.
Oh, at the site itself? So there are 8 specific categories that we look at, signal warrants that we look at to determine whether one should be installed or not installed. And that's based upon the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is a national publication. And usually, in order to install a signal, you need to meet a volume threshold of about 70 to 100 vehicles exiting the site for 8 hours of a single day. And that's based upon the speed of your main line and how much traffic is on your main line, but it's a minimum of 72 if you have your higher speeds on the side street. And again, it has to happen for 8 hours of an average day. And the site doesn't even do that during the peaks.
Mhm.
And that is why we haven't been able to get a stoplight at a business site on Balltown, where the town would like it, but it doesn't meet the threshold.
That's good. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for the clear and the deeper dive on the traffic study. But getting back to the scenario at hand with the CAC findings and the investment level of the work that the applicant has to do. Now, we've been here before. So, right, when we had other PUDs,
Mhm.
right, it would have been in the same process, right, Clark? Where the
Well,
CAC would have to make their
We
recommendation.
haven't had
to
too many
town.
PUDs.
Well, I'm remembering one that was next door.
Yep, we have that one. Yep.
So I think there's got to be a good precise middle ground in terms of what level of work needs to be done to answer the CAC's list, and then go forward, because a lot of the stuff I know is going to get revisited back in detail.
With the planning board during
Yep.
site plan, that's correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the CAC knows what minimum level of information they need to.
Mhm. Yeah, that was the challenge, is they're faced with having to make a recommendation with a preliminary
Mhm.
site plan that, unlike us, we don't have to make our final recommendation until or unless the town board doesn't approve it.
All right, so I guess maybe I said what I said as a statement. Let me ask it as a question. For the one PUD I know, that was the same procedure, right?
Yeah, I can't go back, Jengus, but I actually think they did that engineering for Rivers Ledge ahead of time. Like some of the things that the CAC is struggling with is like there's no grading plan, but the edges of the wetlands are right up to the edges of the stormwater pond. So it's like really hard for them to figure out if there's environmental impacts without a little more information. But one of the things we kind of learned from 3900 State Street is that really the town board is the lead agency and they can't really withhold their recommendation back to the planning board. So they kind of have to say, can we figure out what the environmental impacts are enough, or do we feel like we have mitigation enough to say negative, to recommend a negative declaration, or do we really want to look at alternatives before we move forward with this project? They kind of need a much higher level of detail to be able to comfortably say, because I think a lot of it really comes down to like a grading plan, but they can talk through the applicant on that. But I think Rivers Ledge had more than this. I can go back and check, but
This is pretty developed. I mean, it's not final, but it's pretty developed. And you've identified where you're going to disturb wetlands on the plan.
That's correct. And that's where Brett and I we're planning on meeting with the CAC. We haven't really got to present to them to date. So I think just being able to talk through the meetings and the decisions that were made by DEC, talk through the meetings and the decisions that were made with Army Corps, and talk through how Brett took into account the town code too, whether this is a PDD or not, how we met all the town code 25-foot setbacks and what our plans are moving into preliminary design. We've met all state, federal, and town code in our opinion. So if there may be some critiquing things, I know fencing came up and stuff like that. We can look at that. Those are minor adjustments, but again, tentative zoning approval, we believe we can adjust the minor adjustments at preliminary.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely uniquenesses in the site. This wetland is centrally located to the east. The homes are structured to the west. The 25-foot buffer requirement of the town is a lot more significant in this design, which is some of the CAC issues with water erosion, drainage into the river, and the flow going in. We can look at that flow and say that was sufficient, but CAC is saying that could be more impacting to the environment than we realize. So we don't want to put you through a
Yeah.
final design, but we do want to make sure that's addressed before we make a recommendation to town.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make a statement here. I don't know if it benefits the applicant or not, but at the end of the day, from a perspective of precedence fairness, Laura, I think it is worthwhile to do a check of, for the previous PUD at Rivers Ledge, what was there, that enabled the CAC to make a recommendation to the town board.
Yeah, no, I can, Jengus. I'm pretty sure they had basically engineered it before.
Yeah.
But again, Rivers Ledge was the first one we went through, so,
Right.
and Rivers Ledge also, it didn't have, their wetlands were declared
Declared. Yep.
non-jurisdictional, so like it didn't have the,
No,
in the
right,
wetlands.
Mr.
and
Laflamme's
there's-
point's well taken, right? That
They're
there's some
similar,
difference.
but definitely different issues.
Yeah. And I would just like to add, I mean, one of the things that we really dove into in this project and worked with the planning department and project leads was looking at what is required in a PDD
Mhm.
sketch phase. And then what that sketch phase includes, we looked through, we created a checklist, we created a lot of collaborative documents on what those requirements were to get to that tentative
Mhm.
zoning approval. And we've met them. And I think at large, the planning department believes that. I think at large, the planning board believes that. The last meeting we were approaching, draft resolutions to be looked at tonight. And actually, I thought read in, but, that's getting pushed now to the 6th. And I want, if anything, if we could come back to looking at that, I understand the CAC's concerns and we want to address them and meet with them. But I think at large, we are meeting the intentions of what we need to, per the code, under a PDD to make it to town board. So,
And I think Chris kind of summed up the project perfectly at the beginning. The CAC has to make a seeker recommendation based on a certain level of specificity. And I think their opinion is that they would just like a little more information. As Chuck mentioned, they didn't present directly to the CAC. So the CAC hasn't had the benefit of hearing some things directly from you like the planning board did. So the CAC just has some questions about several topics that are on the agenda to be kind of walked through on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so like Chris said, I don't think anybody's miles apart, but there's just questions, there's nuances to certain subjects that they're just looking for where we are. And like we're saying, this isn't final approval. So we just want everybody to be on the same page conceptually on where these several topics are headed. Like we run into with subdivision sometimes, it's a fine line between how much engineering do you do now versus later. If you don't do more now, you run the risk of discovering something later on that is more expensive than you thought. So we're just trying to make sure everyone's on the same page. Going
And I always look, I mean, something like this with, again, holding on the term tentative zoning approval, right? We're coming back to planning board at some point. And I think if there is specifics and conditions in the sense that, if they're concerned about this 25-foot buffer, we already know we have to design our grading around that, right? So it's not like after we go and get our town board approval, just because the CAC doesn't have an opportunity to continue the review of the project. I think the planning board would pick up the torch on what their concerns are. So, again, it's tentative. We plan on working with you folks through the preliminary design. And I hope Wednesday goes well. I think we'll be able to put on a good presentation and explain the reasoning behind the design and the intent. That's all. We're not going anywhere. We'll be here through preliminary design and continue to work with the board.
We just want the CAC to be able to have confidence in their recommendation. If it's positive or negative, that would be bearing on the town board's ability to decide. So
understood.
That clarity is just so important. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's really well spelled out. I mean, their concerns are very clear, and I think both of you are already thinking and probably already aware of most of them.
Yep. So a couple other questions outside of that. So we're working on that meeting on the 26th. It sounded like project leads and planning department was working on a draft resolution. Is that qualified enough as it sits right now in the draft format to be able to share with us in between this meeting and the next?
Yeah, we can, I'll let Laura answer
Well,
that.
So, I mean, a couple things that were hangups were the entrance and the like an easement or access way from Aqueduct Road down to the public parking. If you have plans that, I mean, I think you should send those to us because I think it takes some of that kind of those big question marks that we were struggling with when we were trying to draft that resolution. I mean, we can send you the ideas, but it sounds like you've already got some things that would make it better. So, I mean, personally, I'd like you to send the drawings and then we could go back through it and then we can send you where we're at.
Understood.
Yeah, and I think the more detail that everybody can be in agreement with, the better. Otherwise, I think some of that would end up being like a condition in the resolution. So the more
Clarity there is.
clarity we can have, yeah, exactly. That would be ideal.
Okay.
So I think what you're mentioning about the entrance is perfect. That's a perfect example of having a little bit more. That showing that drawing may make that just be an immediate agreement versus some type of condition in the resolution that the entranceway is adjusted to, something like that.
Okay. And just to clarify, you folks are asking for an easement, which would pick up post the Parks and Rec easement across the bike trail and go down to our four-way intersection down the road to our green parking lot. Is that correct,
And then
Laura?
all the way down, well, and
Yeah,
then down
right.
to the
So,
waterfront.
I mean, what we kind of realized is this isn't really public if there's no public way to drive to it.
Yep.
Right. So if there's no public access, then it needs, somebody could be kicked. And unfortunately, like even in 2026, we still have this issue. Like it's not enforced, uniformly, but sometimes people get kicked out.
Yep.
So like it has to be public, like from Aqueduct Road down to that green triangle.
Yeah.
So you can update this map to have it be, it can be an easement. I think easement, the town doesn't want to take the road.
So what
But
we can do,
so, and then you'd change that to a green path, I think that would go from Aqueduct down to.
and I think to
public
add
parking.
clarity in the resolution, and this may be a great thing for Rob Hess to look at as well, is we'll create a table that expels out some of these easements because we're already working on the easement with Parks and Rec. We actually have an active PTR application with National Grid for the few crossings there. And then we can illustrate some type of easement down to that lot, but maybe a table of easements because the Parks and Rec we know is shared. We're working on that together right now, but the PTR we can jointly apply for, so that easement is to you folks as well.
And things like the green path,
Mhm.
right? That's final design. You're mapping that out. Do you choose is it on the road? That's final review.
Yes.
I want to remind the board that perhaps that red squiggly line that the firm that gave us the traffic study said that's a really important change and that you have brought to us as a potential change. We don't need to see that final movement of the buildings. We just know that you may have to make adjustments to the buildings. You may choose to reduce the building based on the amount of interference with some of the wetlands and the 25-foot buffer and our town's knowledge of learning that fencing matters in this situation. Some people, if there's nothing, or if it's actually right adjacent to a building, the human nature of it might be they're just going to go over that fence into that buffer, and it's going to it's going to cause others to maybe do the same thing. It avoids the intent of the buffer. So we understand that you are going to take that feedback. You're going to take the approval from the town, and everything looks good financially and otherwise, and give us a new version. So it's good. I just want to reiterate, it's good enough for me to see that red lined document, knowing that that's not final. I don't need to see where the building is going to be. You're going to make an adjustment if you decide to proceed.
That's correct. Yeah. And
So
then
the
Brett,
only thing I want to add to that though is that actually the showing the public access from Aqueduct Road to the parking lot is important for the planned unit development, because setting the zoning is also setting the expectation of the public benefit. So that is something that we would want to get worked out before.
So Laura, is it enough
But
to,
like the actual footprints of the buildings, the wetland buffers and stuff, as long as we have a conceptual plan and understanding, I think that's fine. And know that some of the buildings, they might need to be worked on, but generally speaking, the planned unit development is good. But the town board is really balancing the public kind of benefit with the increase of density. So it is really important to show where those public map on that map for the town board. Just
Yeah.
pushing back on that first statement there.
and I think that's an easy thing to illustrate. I mean, this color coded plan was a great idea, and I forget which board member had brought it up, but we can just add that extra easement for establishing that thoroughfare from the bike trail to that parking lot. And Brett does have a plan already drafted that we can share and have to you folks tomorrow for the available for the next meeting, which shows the TDE's recommendation of that curve.
the curve entrance?
Yep.
And that would be great. Did you guys explore the connection to River's Ledge at all and seeing if you could make that not gated?
So yeah, if you're asking Laura for as an actual traffic connection, that's going to be a no-go at National Grid. They're okay with an emergency access, but they would not want an actual thoroughfare there. And oddly enough, I remember the original agreement Richard had with Peter contractually and next door at Rivers Ledge. And I don't think it was always stated in their private agreement that it was only fire access.
But pedestrian multi-use, that path is.
That's correct. Pedestrian access is part of our PTR application and with National Grid. So yeah, there would be pedestrian access, but not daily vehicle access.
It was, I think this came up at Complete Streets, maybe it was CAC, but it's like every single car that's going in and out has to go by those townhouses. Whereas if you were able to make the connection to Rivers Ledge, there would be a lot more like kind of better distribution of traffic, and those townhouses wouldn't be so heavily trafficked probably.
Yeah. Believe me, I think it would be a great idea too, but it's outside of our control with National Grid and the neighboring property owner in the original agreements.
Laura, could you zoom in on the entrance off the road by the townhouses again, please?
Yeah.
So
Just remembering too, just for the board to realize what I mean by agreements with the neighboring property owners. The neighboring property owners have private streets, private roads. So it's not like as simple, can't really force yourself to connect your project to their streets. It's private infrastructure.
So I've commented on this before. I'm not a big fan of where the curb cut is because it goes in front of the townhouses. It's also hugs Aqueduct Road pretty close. And I can't think of any other locations in town where we built a street next to a street. So again, I just think if you could, I'd like to see what that curve looks like, if that maybe eases it back and how the configuration of the townhomes is with that Weston and Sampson recommendation that's there. Maybe that solves it to a certain degree. But again, I think those collection of townhomes is going to be getting quite a bit of traffic. A lot of headlights are going to go in and out of those times throughout the year. I'm not a fan of that curb cut.
Yeah.
And having development that close to it with a road that's right next to Aqueduct.
Yeah, I mean, I just took this training with National Grid, and we have a good relationship with Rivers Ledge. Like, I'm happy to work with you guys to take a shot at it. If you're afraid just because it was a previous negotiation, I know National Grid is like a long process, but it benefits you, I think, a lot to explore that.
No, and we could explore it together. I just don't want it to be something that, again, holds up tentative zoning approval. I think we can continue to work on that. Dave, I hear you on the townhomes. But again, very similar to Rivers Ledge's senior building. You know, I know this is a street on a street. They had the thoroughfare for their parking lot with the senior building kind of close up to the road. when we looked at this just from a corridors perspective, I mean, if you were to take that roadway and look at it as just the thoroughfare of Rivers Ledge Senior Buildings parking lot, it kind of matches the corridor that was established with the PDD next door. We did do the attached fourplex units to kind of give the same townhome approach that they took on the architecture next door. So we're trying to keep some cohesive product type there. And again, the townhomes were important to us with the density reduction in the back of the 4 and 8 plexes. Just going back in history of being transparent with this board, we added that extra asset class out front just to kind of give a first phase with some substantial, financial nudge to be able to get into the back and deal with the density reduction in the back with the infrastructure of linear footages. Again, the goal of this development is to create something obtainable, diversity in different housing stocks, which isn't in Niskayuna currently. I'd urge the board to, specific on the buildings, to look at all those other projects that we showed where in other communities where they're relatable to other products that went over very well on a market sense of people buying them, pre-sales and everything else. So just would love to keep this with forward progress, moving towards April 13th with a true resolution. We'll do anything in between meetings with the CAC, submit these additional drawings. Just want to keep forward progress on this, make it the preliminary design.
And then, I think you're probably aware, but one of the reasons of the location of that at curb cut and access is entirely existing grades on the site. As you proceed to the west from where that access is, those grades are severe off of the site to get down into there. And we want to make sure that we are not interfering when you get into where you see that phase 1 and such. That's actually pretty steep. You can actually see the contours a little bit in there. That gets pretty steep. I would love to be able to come straight down into that site, but we're going to end up with a highway bridge over the bike path in order to do so. We're trying to maintain the at-grade crossing with the bike path so we don't have to make adjustments to that vertical alignment of the bike path, because I don't think that's in anybody's best interest, not ours, not the people patronizing the bike path. Having that nice level bike path is always a nice thing. So we needed to work to make sure we can get that grade down in there. And that's one of the reasons we have that long section of parallel road with Aqueduct Road.
And is that an existing curb cut that's shown there below the phase 1 wording?
Yeah, I don't, that's actually, I think there might be a section of guide rail with the power lines. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the base map survey.
Yeah.
That's actually not a,
Definitely not a driveway.
definitely not a.
No, I know.
There's
You
a
go by
power-
there and you look on Street View, there's no way you can tell that there would be one there. So
Yeah.
that's why I was curious if
I'm
there
not
is.
sure what that is.
So,
I mean, it's like 50, is it 10, 12 feet? I mean, if a car were to, they wouldn't even be able to see
You wouldn't.
how they're getting on to Aqueduct Road.
Right,
Yeah.
it's probably 12 to 15 foot drop.
Something like that, yeah.
Between the bike path and Aqueduct Road in that location.
And from a slight distance standpoint, is that the location that the entrance has to be, or is there some
I think
wiggle room there
I'd
that it
have
could
to
go?
talk with Alana, but I believe there's wiggle room left and right, because I actually, in doing, adjusting that curve, I actually shifted it slightly to the east, because that worked out a little bit better to where the existing driveway is for the home. There's a couple of unique features. There's an existing driveway, a circular driveway that loops out to Aqueduct Road. There also is a farm road where that existing curb cut is right now that actually goes down all the way to the rear of the site. You can actually drive down in there, get to the pond, drive along it's steep, you need 4-wheel drive, but you can do it. That's where it is right now, and I shifted it slightly to the east a little bit, but because it worked out geometrically a little bit better. But that's,
Just got to ask the question for the public's benefit, but moving those 3 buildings to the west and putting the road right between the 5 buildings, 3 to the left, 2 to the right, go over the bike path, and then take a hard left around the pond
you'd never be able to make that hard left before the pond.
between the bike path and the pond.
Yeah, we do not own that property. That's the National.
Oh, that's right.
right away that actually has a high-pressure gas main on it.
Okay, thank you.
That's unfortunately, that's not an option. Or we would have looked at that.
I figured. I just wanted, for the public's benefit, I remembered something like that, but I couldn't remember the details.
And again, when you start to go to the east, then you've also got a neighbor there, and you've got some wetland configurations and boundaries to the east as well.
One of the things the planning office looked at a little bit is we really kind of crawled through the reference projects and we put a little PowerPoint together, and those were very interesting. And this may be more of a final design question, but have you guys put any thought, or do you have any renderings on what you see the buildings looking like? Because that kind of jumped out when you look at the density of the reference projects. The facades were very interesting in a lot of those projects. They were very well done and they were very well landscaped. And I thought that looked really appropriate for buildings that were a little bit closer together. And that, again, maybe it's more of a final design standpoint, but that seems like that can have a real impact on a project if they're all exactly the same versus if they're nicely distinguished from each other and nicely landscaped. So-
Yeah, so that's something that we plan on. We've already have an architectural firm scoped, and we wanted to do that at preliminary design when the ARB gets introduced into the process. So we're taking planning board comments, going through the ARB process as well. And just from my experience working with both those boards before, it's better to kind of take their feedback and show the comments back and forth and have a cohesive effort of both boards. So we haven't dove into renderings, Clark, because of that, but we plan on doing it once we are into that preliminary design phase, working with planning board and ARB. So
maybe we can touch on that a little bit Wednesday too, because one of the members of the ARB shared an example where they actually rendered kind of the whole layout of the design. So you could almost do kind of a bird's eye pass through, and it helped you visualize the spacing of the buildings and just what the facades of the buildings looked like. So there's a lot of opportunity there too, but it might be farther on in the process.
Yeah, one more, I guess, what if on the driveway? Is there a potential for it to work with shifting the townhomes down onto Aqueduct, having the driveways be on the other side and have the road go on the other side of them with the entrance all the way to the east?
I think the constraint there would be is making that sweeping turn to the bike trail.
Mm-hmm.
I think also from a aesthetic standpoint, having what would be perceived as the rear of the townhome facing Aqueduct Road, we're trying to kind of create that townhome feel as you go down through, and you already see it with the senior housing next door. We're going to try to create that same townhome feel. You do drop quite a bit in grade, so I'm anticipating all of these townhomes to have walkouts in the back of them. They're going to be very conducive to that, which actually will make them a very attractive living space because you do have that ability. But I think if we did that, I think we would lose some of that continuity with that. But it is a good thought.
Yeah, because I do see Chairman's point about the roads essentially being side by side for that stretch.
Which is the front? Facing Aqueduct or facing?
Facing Aqueduct, yes.
The fronts are facing Aqueduct.
Fronts are-
The garages are beyond front. They're going to be front loaded, correct?
They're going to be front loaded. I might have actually on the new design. We're going to have a few of them as side loaded garages because I think it'll work out nicely with sharing a driveway between two of the buildings and having side load garages, which will help mix up the architectural appeal as you go down through there. And we may even have the possibility to do that with some of the others as well. I think, the only place I can think of that, and it's not a road, it's really a continuation of the parking lot is right over here in Shelter Terms. You pull in and they're all along the roadway, and the same with out on Balltown Road, you've got the condominiums to have a parallel roadway that connect all of them. But it's not a road in a sense that it connects to rear property, but I suppose it could. But those are two locations where I can think of in the town that that's been done. And I'm certain if I think about it, there's other places in the capital district where I've seen it done as well. Quite a few.
Yeah, but that's not good design. I mean, to put a driveway in front.
Well, I think, Dave, when we get to the point of massing this too, we can make this look cohesive to the building next door with Rivers Ledge. Senior building, there was a variation of almost blocks of architectural uniqueness. It had parking in front, very similar to driveways, and it had a double loaded drive aisle, and then green buffer space and road, which is very similar to what we have. It's just direct front entry, right? Instead of, front loaded parking lot. So I think we could really make this look very similar to the rest of the corridor with the ARB. And again, there's grade change there too. So some of those perspectives, I think when you take the perspective cut section from Aqueduct down to, for instance, the left-hand side units, you're going to really be looking at possibly second floor there. You're not going to even see the road.
The two units to the farthest to the west, you're going to be looking over the road.
So,
Yeah,
just to
there's a
confirm,
guardrail now there, I think, correct?
What's that?
Is there like a guardrail along the?
Yeah.
but just
there.
just to confirm for clarity, that access road is going to drop down and be below Aqueduct, so it won't feel necessarily as next to each
No,
other.
it'll actually, and that's one of the reasons it loops up around is I'm trying to maintain a, less than 5% grade as you come up away from that bike path. So as you come off of that road, we're going to create a flat section right as you come off of the road. And then it is immediately going to drop down at a pretty decent grade away from Aqueduct Road. I mean, by the time, like I said, these two units on the west, you're going to be looking right over top of the parallel roadway, probably close to the second floor of those homes.
Again, the car would be below Aqueduct. The headlights coming to the south over the bike path are actually going to
They're gonna
hit
dive right into the side of the.
into the side of the road
Yeah.
or the side of the slope going to the, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're going to come up onto Aqueduct.
And then come up.
Slightly up to Aqueduct.
Yes. There is some topographic, there's a third dimension there that doesn't really show up.
Yeah, we can't see, yeah.
And again, those are the constraints of what we'll come into as well on preliminary design. I think we've expressed that we know we may come into things during grading and things where density drops off, things are slightly adjusted. What we're really just adamant on is trying to get the town board to establish the yellow and white line of what that, specialty zoning code's going to be for this project, which I think we've largely met the intent to date. But again, something that once we get into topo and working with the ARB and the rest of the preliminary process, I think this is going to, again, get refined. So
Have you modeled this yet with topos and just blocking out the buildings?
you've done some conceptual.
I've done
right?
some conceptual with running, road grades and such. I haven't run all the road profiles, but enough to identify the critical areas where we're going to need to hit certain target grades, whether it be wetland crossings, bike crossings, and things like that, to make sure that what we're giving you is as accurate as possible. Lot of experience designing topographic relief, so it's I feel pretty confident that we're going to come up with a good plan on this once we get into the process. The real critical topographic area, though, we've taken a good hard look at that.
Yeah, if you get to that point in the next stage, if you have some massing models, those are always good for us. I think some of the ones you shared they were well defined because they showed the looks of the townhomes and colors and landscaping. But if they're not just flat, which this site isn't, if you have that, then we can maybe see how that roadway obviously does this compared to the other two.
We're planning on using C2 architecture, and we have them scoped right now for that exact massing model.
Oh, okay.
And some renderings. So again, we'll pull that trigger, kind of work collectively. ARB and planning board was our original intent with how C2 kind of scoped and how we wanted them scoped. So.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Other applicants are here?
We're doing, yeah, so on Wednesday, the 25th is our next meeting, 4 o'clock here. We're also going to go to the site if there's time, correct?
Well, I think like Chuck or Brett mentioned, we hadn't really finalized that, but it seemed like it would be helpful to do some of it in the office and then maybe go to the site. It would definitely be advantageous to do both of those. It might be a little clumsy to do it all at the site, but it's
Yeah,
not that far to do a little bit of it here in town hall and then all go to the site so close.
I only bring that up in case someone else on the board would want to participate in the site walk. That's all. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So Wednesday, that meeting. Again, I was checking the website. There's a town board meeting where they were going to call for public hearing. Is that still on for the 26th?
Yes, that's still on.
Okay. It's just not an agenda posted. I was just double checking.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time this evening.
CAC.
Okay, that wraps up discussion items and we'll move on to reports. Lauren Clark.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay, great. Next up is commission business. Open it up to the floor. Any member has any updates or comments on anything, projects? No commission business. All right. Okay, then we'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Laflamme,
Second.
second by Ms. Gold. All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Meeting is adjourned at 8:22 PM. Thank you, everyone.